Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, parents and families of graduates, faculty and guests, Dr. Wong, and of course, the class of 2017. I am Jake Benj from Enid. It is my pleasure this morning to introduce Mr. Dan Little of Medill. Mr. Little is the first and only chairman of the Board of Trustees for the Oklahoma School of Science and Mathematics. Former Governor George Nye appointed him back in 1986. Mr. Little received his undergraduate degree from Harvard University and his Juris Doctorate from the University of Oklahoma. He is a former regent of the University of Oklahoma. Through his steadfast dedication to OSSM, he understands quality education, and he believes in and cares about young people and their futures. Mr. Little is a man of great energy. He most recently ran the Oklahoma City Marathon with 3 of our students. That's 26.2 miles. He has been a guiding force for OSSM, and his boundless energy is demonstrated by his efforts to help continue to grow our school. Mr. Little and his family have been strong supporters and patrons of OSSM, and they have left an indelible mark on our school. Mr. Dan Little has served over 32 years as chairman of the school's Board of Trustees. How remarkable. Please join me in thanking him for all he does for OSSM. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dan Little.
Ladies and gentlemen, proud parents and family, thank you for your courage and your unselfishness in making that decision to send your child to the Oklahoma School of Science and Mathematics. Only 22 months ago, what a difference this day is compared to 22 months ago. And hopefully, during that 22 months, as you rode side saddle with your child, your understanding and your friendship with your child, as your child grew and developed so much more, your friendship with your child has grown and developed so much more than it would have otherwise. And I'll predict again that because of the last 22 months, your friendship, your relationship with your child for the rest of your lives will be much stronger. Now, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, and especially my fellow trustee, Ron Mashore, and Dr. Goldie Thompson, who represents Chancellor Glenn Johnson. It was 5 years ago that we ended the remarkable era of Dr. Edna Manning and began the transition and the era of Dr. Frank Wong. The timing could not have been more difficult, more challenging. But during these last 5 years, Dr. Wong has met tremendous financial challenges to this school. And our faculty have refortified foundation stones of academic excellence. And I'm going to declare that transition ended. I think we are now in the position of creating our own foundation stones. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees, would all staff, all faculty, and Dr. Wong please stand? Thank you all. Job well done. Now, mighty seniors of the class of 2017. What a difference. What a difference. You have now survived and thrived for 22 months in the awesome pressure cooker. And more important than what you have learned, than the facts, you have learned how to think, how to analyze, how to study. And you have begun the process of achieving academic excellence and the intellectual pursuit, which you will continue for the rest of your life. And you all have done it and done it well. Now, I do want to take a personal privilege and recognize that your class has achieved some unique things that are especially dear and meaningful to me. Jake Crampton, Thomas Palmer, and Ingrid Gao completed the Oklahoma City Marathon, and Ingrid was the first girl to do so. And I also want to recognize Lawton Blanchard, who was the first junior to do so, and will have the opportunity next year to be the first one to do it all 2 years. So, as you go forth to all your different colleges and your life's pursuits, never forget, as Will Rogers said, never forget where you are from. And you are from the Oklahoma School of Science and Mathematics. Thank you for job well done.
Hello, I'm Logan Biggins from Bingaroni. This morning I'd like to introduce Ms. Terry Berryman, who for the last 3 years has been the academic counselor for OSSM. Ms. Berryman spends countless hours developing good study habits and arranging senior tutors for juniors. Yearly, Ms. Berryman organizes a senior mock interview night, giving students a chance to practice using our soft skills. These skills have helped seniors tremendously during college interviews. In addition, she has assisted seniors with reaching their graduation goals. Ms. Berryman received her undergraduate degree in speech education from Baldwin-Wallace University and her master's in vocational counseling from Kent State University. She has taught counseling courses or communications courses in 4 different universities, and she has experience in career counseling and as a pre-med advisor at the college level. Her overall desire is to help students set and reach their goals. Ms. Berryman is the mother of 4 children and grandmother to 6. Ms. Terry Berryman, please come forward to recognize the Oklahoma Foundation Academic All-State Scholars.
Good morning. On behalf of the Oklahoma Foundation for Excellence, I am pleased to honor OSSM students who are the recipients of the Foundation's prestigious 2017 Academic All-State Award. This morning, we recognize 3 students as All-State Scholars, and we are so proud of each one of you. Please come forward as I announce your name. Bing Chen. Grace Liu. And John Wynn. The Foundation for Excellence was organized in 1986 to recognize and encourage academic distinction in Oklahoma's public schools. Each year, the foundation selects only 100 of the state's top public high school seniors to receive $1,000 merit-based scholarship and medallion. All-state scholars are chosen based on their test scores, academic achievement, community involvement, and demonstrated success in utilizing the educational resources in his or her environment. Today, it is my privilege to present them with the Academic All-State Certificates. Let's give them a round of applause.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and class of 2017. I'm Rivik Ganguly from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And not only am I here today to graduate, but I'm also here to tell you about a special award. I'm here today to tell you about the Chemistry Award named after Dr. Charles M. Roberts, a PhD biochemist and a native Oklahoman. Now, in relation to OSSM, Dr. Roberts taught chemistry at OSSM from 1992 to 2001. He not only was a professor, but he also coached students to compete in the International Chemistry Olympiad, a very prestigious competition. During his tenure, he led 6 students to the United States national team qualifiers, and 2 of those students went on to become international medal winners. Now, under his tutelage, OSSM was the first school in the United States of America to have 2 chemistry Olympians from the same school in the same year. And he repeated this record and feat 2 years successfully. Now, in 2014, an award was established by the chemistry department to commemorate his praise and effort to chemistry, and especially his inspiration. They wanted to make sure that the student who received the award would realize the extent and beauty of chemistry. Now, the Dr. Charles Roberts Chemistry Award is given to a student who demonstrated excellence in chemistry and the pursuit of intellect. He to present this prestigious award for 2017 is Dr. Fazlur Rahman, and a longtime good friend of OSSM and Dr. Charles Roberts. Now, please, Dr. Rahman, come forward.
Please join me to congratulate Josephine Risco for winning this Oklahoma Chemistry Department Dr. Charles Roberts Award. She was selected based on her pursuit of interest in chemistry. She is going to pursue chemical engineering at the University of Oklahoma. And congratulations and good luck. Okay, that should be fine.
Thank you, Dr. Rahman, and congratulations, Josephine. Okay, so now, in 1989, Dr. Arnie Cholstra answered an ad in the Chronicle of Higher Education, requesting faculty for the newly established OSSM. And he was hired as the school's first faculty member. Now, as a part of the inaugural faculty, Dr. Cholstra helped develop the physics curriculum and set the standards for excellence. And he also established the philosophy and the mission of OSSM, which is to reach for something higher and once again, reach for the stars. Now, before we begin to provide the award, we should learn a few facts about him. Dr. Cholstra was born and educated in the Netherlands. He earned advanced degrees in experimental and medical physics. His family immigrated to the US in 1965 when Dr. Cholstra accepted a teaching position in the University of Illinois. Later, he became a president of a Houston bioscience company, and in the late 70s, he returned to the classroom to teach. And he actually taught electrical engineering at Rice University before his retirement. Now, since his passion for teaching permeated through everything he did, he vowed to teach OSSM for a numerous amount of years. And Dr. Cholstra finally retired after 10 years of being a professor. As his legacy, he founded the Cholstra Physics Prize, a scholarship awarded to every year to a deserving student who has succeeded in not only learning simple mechanics solutions or anything like that, but truly going above and beyond what a normal student does. Now, physics professor Dr. Kurt Bachman will present the 2017 prize. So Dr. Bachman, please come forward.
On behalf of the physics department, I'm pleased to honor this hardworking student who's demonstrated excellence in the study of physics and also in electronic circuits and leading the robotics team. So today it's my privilege to present Jessica Yin with the Trollster Physics Award.
Thank you, Dr. Bachman.
Hello, I'm Amanda Pan from Edmond. The Oklahoma School of Science and Mathematics Society is an organization of alumni and friends of OSSM who support the school and alumni association with a variety of activities throughout the year. 16 years ago, the Society established the Ralph Spencer Service Award. A founding member of the Society, Ralph Spencer, grandfather of 1995 graduates Daniel Spencer, set an example for all as a devoted friend, as well as a dedicated and generous supporter of our school. This honor is awarded annually to the OSSM student who most exemplifies the spirit of community and school service. Mr. John Junger could not be here today to present this award. Mrs. Rebecca Morris will announce a recipient of the 16th Annual Ralph Spencer Service Award, and I have the distinction of providing her introduction. Mrs. Morris is a graduate of the OSSM Class of 2003. She earned her bachelor's degree from Oklahoma State University and master's degree from the University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center in Cellular and Molecular Biology. She currently works for OSSM as our Director of Admissions and Registrar and is an active board member of the OSSM Alumni Association. Mrs. Morris, thank you for your service to OSSM, and please come forward.
Thank you, Amanda. It is my pleasure to stand up here today and provide the recipient of this year's Ralph Spencer Service Award with his $100 presentation for the work that he has done for Oklahoma. This student, the recipient of this year's Ralph Spencer Service Award, has accumulated over 778 service hours while a student at the Oklahoma School of Science and Mathematics. That is almost 100 8-hour workdays. It is my pleasure to invite Abel Zachariah to come up and accept this year's award.
I now take a moment to recognize some very special people in our audience. And they have helped make the Oklahoma School of Science and Mathematics a great place for students and faculty alike. This is the OSSM Parents Association. They have given their time and energy to support the students and to support the school, and their work has enriched the lives of our students immeasurably. I would like to ask the president of the Oklahoma School of Science and Mathematics Parents Association to come forward and receive the Parents Association Service Award. Thank you, Mr. Benj. Mr. Benj? And as he comes up to receive the reward, I would like for the other Parents Association officers to stand and be recognized at this time. Ms. Wendy Knowles, Mr. David Knowles, Ms. Lee Ping Ma, Ms. Grace Kai, Ms. Belinda Slavic, Ms. Diane Liebel, and Mr. Jim Hill. And seniors, please join me in thanking the officers of the Parents Association Foundation. Just Senior Thomas Palmer, please stand. I take this moment to recognize Thomas Palmer for accepting an appointment to the United States Naval Academy. Please join me in applauding his commitment to serving our country. Thank you. Now I ask Dr. Rahman, accompanied by 8 students, to come to the stage. Howie Chen, Jake Crampton, Michael Lee, Grace Liu, John Wen, Daniel Yao, Angela Zhu, and Maggie Zhang. These students, coached by Dr. Rahman, have brought honor to the Oklahoma School of Science and Mathematics by achieving first place in their division in the National Team Plus S competition. TEAM stands for Tests of Engineering Aptitude, Science, and Mathematics, an annual competition designed to help students discover their potential in engineering. Using STEM applications and 21st century learning skills, students work collaboratively to problem-solve real-world engineering challenges. Our team has both won Best in State as well as Best in Nation in their division. Please join me in congratulating them. Okay. And please remain there. I'm going to ask 2 additional seniors to stand, Daniel Yao and Joel Bullock. So if you can stand, we want to recognize them for their achievement in the National Science Bowl competition. They, along with 3 juniors, recently returned from Washington, D.C., having received first place in their competition category. They also received a check for $500, which I cannot present at this time because we've already deposited it because of our dire financial situation. So thank you. I won't take the time to go through the innumerable honors and awards that the seniors have received, for that would just take too long. We had an awards assembly on campus that lasted for 2 hours and 20 minutes, I think rivaling that length of the Academy Awards. However, I will mention to you that collectively as a class, the students have been offered $7,695,446 in scholarships, an average of $120,241 per graduate. Wow, what an accomplishment.
Esteemed faculty, not yet esteemed students, and friends and family, it's my pleasure to welcome the OSSM Class of 2017. So, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Jessica Yen, a 17-year-old that loves physics, origami, and dogs. And to commemorate being both 17 and part of the Class of 2017, I hope you guys will give me the honor of giving you your last high school lesson. The topic, what can we learn from the number 17? So according to Wikipedia, 17 is a significant number in pure mathematics, applied science, law, and other cultural phenomena. It is the minimum number of given numbers in a Sudoku puzzle, the maximum number of strokes in a Chinese radical, the longest winning streak in NHL history, and the number to call the police in France. So whether you knew it or not, 17 is actually quite a significant number, and there's a lot we can learn from it. As you know, in math, 17 is a prime number, but it's also the sum of the first 4 prime numbers, 2, 3, 5, and 7. And that's what really makes it unique. While we are all special individually, it is our sum that makes us unique. So I urge you all in college, don't be isolated, don't be alone, don't be afraid. Give hugs. Smile at people, and don't be afraid of strangers, except the creepy ones. In chemistry, 17 is the atomic number for chlorine, and it is also the group number that chlorine is contained in. And so that's a really cool coincidence. And so just like how 17 is such a significant number in chemistry, wherever you guys go in life, also be significant. Stand strong, be bold, be proud, and make a difference. But besides being just a cool number, 17 is a monumental age to reach. At the age of 17, one can donate blood without parental consent, one can enlist in the armed forces, and one can apply for a private pilot license. So the change from 16 to 17 is very different. At 17, you can give part of your body to help someone else. You can defend what you love. You can travel freely and boldly. And so just like that, I want us to be a class that can help people, that can change things. And on a less serious note, 17 is the name of a K-pop band. For my weeaboos, Android 17 is a character in the Dragon Ball series. And for my gaming nerds, Half-Life 2 takes place in and around City 17. So in all honesty, 17 is a perfect number to represent us. It binds us across so many different cultures and so many different ethnicities. And just like that, our memories bind us together. Like how we shed equal amounts of hair and tears over our first term paper. How we all got so hype over a banjo solo. How we have so many nicknames that all revolve around corn, snakes, and ripsticks. So, as we all go off on our separate ways, I hope that 17 continues to bind us together so that we may never forget these 2 short but memorable years. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Good morning, professors, faculty, friends, guests, and the class of 2017. First and foremost, I would like to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for enabling me to make it this far and stand amongst you all today. Thank you. A verse that has truly helped me get through my OSSM career was Isaiah 40, verse 31. This verse says, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." Secondly, I would like to thank my mom and dad for always supporting me and constantly keeping me in their prayers. The Christ-like love and motivation you two have directed towards me have been vastly beneficial in all areas of my life. Both of you have always been there for both my sisters and I. This was especially evident in how frequently you guys would visit my sisters and I throughout both my junior and senior year at OSSM. I think it even got to the point where security, Miss Bennett, and even the fishbowl staff thought you two resided within the dorms as well. I can only hope this won't be the case in college. Nevertheless, I can honestly say I'm truly blessed to have you two as my parents. I would also like to extend a huge shout out to my sisters, Anne and Annette, who are also graduating with me today, for letting me complete the trio, and especially for stealing all the good genes. Trust me, this fact is truly evident. Lastly, I would like to thank all my friends and cousins for coming out today. Oh, Lord. Did not mean for that to happen, you guys, but okay. Lastly, I would like to thank all my friends and cousins for coming out today from so many places, ranging from Florida all the way to India. At this moment, I would like to appreciate my grandparents in my native tongue who flew here all the way from Florida. Apacha Amachi, Ella Prathanikam Utri Nani. Now, class of 2017. This is the day that we've all been looking forward to. I know that I've not been the only one to have had a countdown ready for this day since the beginning of junior year. Pretty sure I'm not. The time that we have spent here at OSSM has definitely made us closer. This is one of the main reasons why I consider you guys as not just a group of friends, but a group of family. Together, we took on the struggle that OSSM brought and survived. As a family, we found beauty in the struggle. Within the 20 months that we have endured at OSSM, we have been through a multitude of 6-week grades, 3-hour Saturday tests, and 4 semesters of 3-hour finals. I still remember looking at my first 6-week grade report that I received during my first semester at OSSM. I think my reaction was similar to most people in that I was like, whew, I've got some work to do. I believe it was at these moments we grew as a whole and learned the true value of hard work. From these moments and shedding tears through physics tests, we've experienced a lot of losses. Despite all the L's we took, we bounced back on this day. This is because we turned all the L's we took into a massive victory today. As a family, our class has undoubtedly etched itself into OSSM's illustrious history. From being the first class to witness Dr. Schrock get pied in the face during junior year penny wars, to being one of the last classes to experience OSSM's lights out policy, our class has certainly been historic. This historic journey has certainly been challenging. From all the late-nighters, enormous study groups, and loads of caffeine, our class has pushed itself a great deal. Yet, as great philosopher and street poet Aubrey Graham once said, sometimes it's the journey that teaches you a lot about your destination. I want to encourage you, class, to reflect on how beneficial OSSM has been to us during this journey. I believe very strongly that OSSM has taught us what is needed to be successful in college and beyond. The faculty and administration here has truly encouraged all of us to strive to be the best version of ourselves each and every day. We are so privileged to have such a highly esteemed faculty that has been committed to our education from the moment we stepped into the MAC. The faculty has also been immensely helpful to us outside of the classroom. For example, I recall how Dr. Wong would always provide math review sessions and Chinese food before a Saturday test or final. As a side note, I don't think I've ever had fried rice that has tasted that good. Dr. Wong, along with the rest of OSSM's faculty, has continuously supported us throughout our 2-year journey. As we move on from here, class, there will be no more Wednesday assemblies, floor competitions, fine art performances, Thunder games, and mandatory study time. Although, I think the last of these two will be maintained in college to an extent. I mean, come on, especially Thunder games. Nonetheless, everything that we have done together at OSSM has ingrained memories that we will always cherish. I want to thank you, class of 2017, for all these memories. As a whole, we've all been blessed to have this once-in-a-lifetime 2-year experience that OSSM has provided us. I have no doubt that everything OSSM has given us will allow us to make history in the world and be world changers. OSSM class of 2017, we have set the standard high for the classes after us to follow, and we'll definitely have our names ringing throughout the hallways for the years to come. To close, as I always say, stay beautiful and stay blessed. OSSM class of 2017, congratulations, we made it there.
Hello, I'm Jeremiah Yohanan from UConn. This morning, it is my privilege and honor to introduce to you our special speaker. 24 years ago, Mr. Edward G. Smith sat waiting for his name to be called at the OSSM Commencement. As a proud graduate of the OSSM class of 1993, he has experienced firsthand the anticipation and excitement that we are feeling here today. Throughout his journey as an Oklahoman and now as this very successful businessman, Mr. Smith sees how OSSM is a valuable asset. He understands the important role this academic institution plays in Oklahoma's economic growth. Before he comes to the podium, I'd like to share a few more things about our distinguished speaker. In 1997, Edward G. Smith graduated from Harvard University with an A.B. cum laude in physics. That same year, he began working in New York with global consultancy Oliver Wyman. Mr. Smith focused on developing statistical models and analytic techniques for managing the risk of the world's largest banks and financial service companies. He was promoted to partner in 2005, becoming, at age 29, one of the youngest partners of his firm. In 2011, Mr. Smith became the Senior Vice President of the State Street Corporation in Boston and headed the company's regulatory capital efforts. As a tireless advocate of the need for global banks to improve the design and oversight of their analytic capabilities, he helped establish the company's Model Risk Management Group in 2014. He became the company's first Chief Model Risk Officer and went on to hold a similar position at Santander US. He branched out and launched in 2016 an independent advisory service. Outside of work, Mr. Smith is an accomplished pianist. He also remains committed to the education of tomorrow's leader. For example, he has served on the board of the Posse Foundation, a nationwide nonprofit that provides full college tuition for high-performing students from urban areas. As you can see, Mr. Smith truly embodies the OSSM spirit. Please help me in welcoming our speaker, Mr. Edward G. Smith.
Good morning, everyone. So I'd like to begin, of course, by thanking Dr. Wong and the distinguished faculty and board members for the opportunity to speak today. It's truly an honor to be back at a place that really has meant so much to my own personal journey. And to all the students, I sincerely congratulate you. And I predict that one day you too will feel the same as I do about this place, that these 2 short years you spent were both extraordinary and extraordinarily unique in relation to all that came afterwards. I, of course, also want to congratulate the parents for all the support you've given to get your children to this point. And most importantly, I want to congratulate whomever decided to move this ceremony into air conditioning, because it was quite hot when we did this on the steps of the Capitol my year. So this is proof that you students are already doing better than your parents' generation. As honored as I am to be here, I must be honest and admit that I don't have any experience with giving commencement speeches. So when I sat down a few weeks ago to try to figure out, what should I say, what were some important things to pass on, I did the most scholarly thing possible, which is I went to Wikipedia. Now, according to the Wiki article, and it said, I quote, "The commencement speech affords the speaker a platform to say amazing and unlimited things." So that cleared up my task quite a bit, because although I clearly have no hope of being amazing, I can easily be unlimited, say by speaking for an unlimited amount of time, demanding an unlimited speaker's fee, or trying to make an unlimited amount of bad jokes. So I'm clearly trying to accomplish all 3. But seriously, I am going to try to keep this short and to the point. I thought about what's important, and I came to the conclusion I don't have anything earth-shatteringly new in terms of life advice to reveal to you, because quite honestly, you probably already know everything you need to succeed. And in fact, these are probably things taught to you as children, right? Don't lie, sit up straight, be nice, eat your vegetables, and so on. One way to think about life, though, is it's really the multi-decade process that's necessary to convince us, as stubborn humans, of the truth of these simple maxims. But beyond these simple truths, I think, are certain nuances of their interpretation and application, which you learn through life experience. Yes, you should eat your vegetables, but which ones? French fries or Brussels sprouts? And the correct answer is French fries. So what I'm going to do is, just pick out a few simple pieces of life advice, the kind that you'll probably hear over and over, and just kind of give you my own interpretation as to how to properly apply that advice. So life advice number 1, dedicate your life to the service of others. Now, the ideal of service is one that's beckoned to us across the ages as both virtuous and inherently rewarding. Throughout history, there's many examples of this. In the 18th century, they used to sign their letters, "Your obedient servant." Muhammad Ali said that serving your fellow man is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. And I agree with that, and I think it's an ideal that's led many friends of mine into service programs like the Peace Corps or Teach for America, into specialized career fields in public health and welfare, and of course into the military. And I think it's worth pointing out that this is the time of young adulthood when that fire of service tends to burn most brightly, And if any of you have that, and I'm sure you do, I would encourage you to keep that burning as long as possible. But I do want to, at least from my experience, relate where I've seen this type of idealism get people frustrated. It's usually when they can't act out that service exactly as they planned because life gets in the way. Right? Let's say, for example, that the pressures of paying rent or tackling your mountain of student loan debt, forces you to postpone that dream project working on water purification in Tanzania, and instead compels you to take on the dreaded J word, which is a job. And if this calamity befalls you, I'd love to be able to promise that your job will be invigorating, or be the place where you meet your research partner, whom you later go on to solve all the world's water purification problems, etc. But to be honest, your job is more likely going to suck. Probably so much that you'd wish you were back in school, which is saying quite a bit. And even if it's not too bad, you might still be saddled with some bit of disappointment that the financial realities of life got in the way of your idealism, especially in my industry, where taking a banking job is often seen as the epitome of selling out. But I want to just briefly suggest one different type of perspective on all that. And it stems from reminding all of you graduates, even on this very happy day of your celebration, that you're still what, in financial terms, we call expense items, which of course is a nice way of saying that you're burdens. And you're likely to continue being burdens for quite some time. Now, don't get me wrong, you're burdens that we're very proud of, burdens that we've invested all our hopes and future wants, and we're thrilled to have you, but burdens nevertheless. And to be a burden, if you think about it, is by definition the opposite of serving others. So the thing that young people often lose sight of is that by becoming self-sufficient, say by taking that crappy job, you've actually taken the most foundational step to serving others by simply ceasing to be a burden on others. And this step should be seen as being completely consistent with the ideal of service, not contrary to it. Now, the good news is that you're, of course, OSSM graduates, and graduates of this place have a history of doing amazing things, so the likelihood that you'll end up digging ditches is fairly low, or bringing coffee to the guys who dig ditches is fairly low. But even if you do, I want you to try to keep this perspective in mind. Okay. Second piece of life advice that you'll probably often hear, dare to change the world. I did some research on this, and in 1789, arguing in support of the French Revolution, Thomas Jefferson wrote a very interesting letter to James Madison, in which he said, "The earth always belongs to the living generation. They may manage it then and what proceeds from it however they please." And the point he was making, I think, is that it's the right, and in some ways the duty, of the new generations to continually remake the world in their image. Also, I found that 200 years later, this letter was used as the source material for Public Enemy's famous rap anthem, "Fight the Power." And that's a little-known fact that you can use at trivia contests. But like the ideal of service, the desire to fight against injustices and wrongs of the world also burns brightest at about this age. But to really do this effectively, you'll need to confront two questions. What is it that you believe so strongly in that you're willing to fight for it? And how do you exactly achieve those ends? So in thinking about that first question, I'm reminded of a somewhat funny incident which happened when I was at OSSM. And it was in my senior year, and a few friends and I had formed a band. I think we called ourselves Taco Please with a question mark at the end. Now, I'm using the word band here quite loosely, because what we really were just a set of over-caffeinated insomniac students who would stay up till 4 in the morning singing Nirvana songs. But every now and then we actually wrote some of our own, and they were all kind of meant to be private, only shared late nights in the dorms. But through some freak accident, word leaked out, and people actually wanted to hear us. So there was a pool party one day with the entire senior class invited, and people started chanting and demanding that we get up on stage and start singing. So we tried to run, but they blocked our exits. So we nervously got on stage, and we started singing a certain song, which was really more of a rap, but it was called Electronics. And it was an ode to our electronics professor, Dr. Arnie Trollstra, who you heard about earlier. and was filled with references to such things as Kirchhoff's voltage law and metal oxide semiconducting field effect transistors, which is not the easiest thing to rhyme in a rap. But in any event, the students really got into it, and they started throwing their hands in the air. And then it suddenly dawned on us that we had never really written lyrics to the second half of the song. And so we kind of started panicking, and we eventually just resorted to making random noises, kind of like that Swedish Chef Muppet, which I won't imitate here, but you get the idea. And so to our surprise, when we got to the end, everyone was cheering and clapping and thinking we did a great job. Now, here's the interesting bit. So as we were chatting with our friends afterwards, some of our classmates came up and said, you know, it was a great song, but we couldn't really make out the last lyrics that you were saying. And then one of our good friends came up and just strode up and proudly said, oh, I understood everything they said. And we thought he was joking, but he wasn't. He actually, from what he heard, thought he had heard legitimate words to everything we'd said. Now, unless he spoke some sort of Swedish chefese, it's unlikely that he really did hear it properly. But it's interesting that he certainly thought he did. And the reason I bring this up is it's kind of a fun example that I like to remind myself of, that there's this curious human tendency. Perhaps it's the way to say this is that the more unquestioningly certain we are about something, the more likely we are actually to be wrong about it. And this example, of course, was a silly, harmless one, but I've seen plenty more examples of that tendency, especially in the working world, which have not been so harmless. And actually, if you're a student of history and you go back and look through history, you'll see that many of the greatest errors, which brought on the greatest horrors, were actually committed by people who were the most totally convinced in whatever they believed. So while I urge you to go forward confidently, fight for the causes you believe in, I guess I'd also remind you just to retain some degree of humility and to always be open to the fact that you might in reality be wrong. This is somewhat of a social analog to the scientific method, I think, where, something I assume you've learned well here, but it's a method of thought which perpetually welcomes new evidence, which challenges the old theories. And it's something that you can actually apply to your day-to-day interactions and your general beliefs in society. So, what about that second question I asked? How exactly do you go about solving the world's difficult problems? Well, for this, I would actually refer you to the advice of Admiral William McRaven, who was a retired Navy admiral who gave a great speech to the graduates at the University of Texas a few years ago. And he said, the way you do this is simple. You start by making your bed. A clinical psychologist named Jordan Peterson said something quite similar. He said the way you start changing the world is to clean your room. So what were they trying to say? And I think the point is they were saying if you can't conjure up the discipline, perseverance, knowledge, and so forth to take care of the simplest aspects of your life's disarray, then what makes you think you can conjure up those same traits to take on the world's greatest problems? The point's also that perhaps by learning to solve your own problems, you gain invaluable experience and practice even, which teaches you the skills that you need, gives you more confidence, credibility, to then go forth in the world and solve problems outside yourself. Now, obviously, you probably have larger life worries right now than an unmade bed. Well, that's fine. That just means you have more opportunities to start working to see if you can solve them. And as you go through life and the problems pile up, you won't be able to fix everything, certainly not everything immediately, but even your failures will teach you a lot. You'll get better. All right, for example, a problem I was given a few weeks ago was to write this commencement speech. Now, it didn't look easy. I hadn't done it before, but I set a target. I worked on it. I struggled with it. I rewrote it. And after failing to bribe anyone to ghostwrite it for me, I finally solved the problem. Now, obviously, it's not the best speech. It's probably quite a bad speech. But I am thankful for the opportunity to have been given a new problem and to have solved it. And I would bet that deep down in my psyche, it's probably given me ever so slightly more confidence to then solve the next problem. And so what I guess I'm saying is that if you can become a certified solver of problems, starting with your own, and the great thing about life is it will never give you a shortage of problems to solve, then you can, in a very real sense, do absolutely anything. Now, as just a quick aside, and this follows from kind of logical thinking. If the best first step to solving the world's problems is to solve your own, then perhaps it may follow that the best second step to solving the world's problems is to give everyone else the space and freedom and tools they need to solve their own. And as a bit of a student of history, I drew the connection that this sentiment actually lies at the philosophical core of our republic's emphasis on individual rights, liberty, freedom, etc. It's actually quite a spectacular thing when you think on it, but that's the subject of another lecture, so I won't go into that. And so I've got just one final piece of life advice I want to give you, and I promise the speech is almost done. To introduce this point, though, it may help if I give you a bit of background on what I do and on my personal journey in getting there. So what I do is advise large and complex banking organizations on safety and soundness issues related to risk, capital, liquidity, and regulation. So in plain English, that means I try to give the banks the tools and understanding they need so as not to blow themselves up, and also, of course, not to blow up the broader economy. Now, if someone had told me when I graduated from OSSM some 20 years ago that this is what I'd be doing, I would absolutely wouldn't have believed it. And the reason is I had a very clear path of what I had always wanted to do, and it was largely in science and especially physics. And so somewhere probably around 7 or 8, I began taking it for granted that I would end up as a physics professor or maybe a physics researcher. And so when my first high school here in Oklahoma City, Cassidy, ran out of science and math classes for me, it was quite the natural step to seek a place like this out and continue. After OSSM, I went into Harvard, studied physics. Everything was going according to the plan. And then a funny thing happened, which is that I had crammed so much study into so short amount of time that I actually started to burn out. And I needed a break. And so after graduation, I decided to do something completely different, decided to work for 2 years in a financial services consulting firm, which didn't mean much to me at the time, probably doesn't mean much to you right now, but just to get a sense of the so-called real world. And to my surprise, I was pretty good at it and I enjoyed it. And so those 2 years that I had initially planned quickly turned into 7 years. Before I knew it, I was promoted to partner. All of a sudden, I was staring at what now seemed like my permanent career. And to be honest, I didn't quite know whether I should be happy about that or not. So without thinking too much about it, I had kind of stumbled my way into 2 of perhaps the 3 requirements of career success. One is being competent, which allows people to pay you. 2 is having fun, which causes you not to want to shoot yourself every morning. But I still didn't really have that third aspect, which I call finding meaning in what you're doing. I was successful, at least on the outside, so I didn't worry about such things too much. Now that was all about to change, and it started to change specifically the week of September 7th, 2008, which many of you may not remember probably that well in terms of its import, but in the span of 2 weeks, what happened was a few things. The 2 largest mortgage originators in the country, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, were taken over by the government on insolvency fears. Merrill Lynch collapsed and was forced to merge with Bank of America. Lehman Brothers went bankrupt. AIG was rescued by a government bailout, and Washington Mutual, which was a $300 billion bank, went bust and was forced to merge with JP Morgan. Now, those names may not all be terribly meaningful to you, but the basic gist was that the financial world was heading off a cliff, and by extension, the global economy. And so it was about at that time that I just started to wonder about some pretty fundamental questions. How could this happen? How could the largest banks in the most advanced economies self-destruct like this? I wasn't the only one asking such questions, but for me, this was somewhat of an urgent personal quest to make sense of what I was doing with my life. And in fact, whether I needed a radical change. So I literally went back to basics. And in my spare time away from the office, I tried to deconstruct the entire financial system, starting at the very fundamental question, what even is money? I studied this, and it took me over a year to kind of come to some real good conclusions. And I discovered that money is actually this fascinating concept that everyone uses, but no one really understands. And although it would take a bit too long to explain everything that I learned here, suffice it to say that I learned that the concept of money is intimately connected to a society's faith in its future self, to its degree of social trust, and to the structure of its banking system. And philosophically, banks don't really deal with money, which I know sounds like a strange concept, but what they really do at root is just serve as settlement houses for all of society's promises to itself. And money, one way to think about money is that it's simply the identifiable marker we place on these promises. So to make a long story short, I began at that time to start purposefully evolving my career in a certain direction. And I evolved it towards banking regulation in particular, and also something called model risk. Now, model risk is the chance that the sophisticated analysis used by banks actually produced the wrong results. And obviously, we saw a lot of that in the crisis. And as modern banks are basically managed purely on these models, it can be argued that model risk might actually be the most important risk they face. So since that time, I've had a lot of good fortune in being able to apply that skill. I was the chief officer in charge of model risk at 2 of the world's largest banks, and I continue to advise financial companies on this in an independent capacity. And the real point here is that this is now tremendously meaningful work to me, and it motivates me in a special way every day. Which brings me to the final piece of life advice. So what you'll often hear is, do what you love and success will follow. Now that's true, and I agree, but I might slightly change the wording to doing what you love is success. And you see, we tend to separate the concepts of what we do and whether we're successful at it. But I've come to believe that actually these are one and the same thing. If your habitual mode of action is one in which you diligently strive for your goals, find deep meaning in the pursuit, then you are, simply put, succeeding already, even though you will most certainly encounter the feeling of failure from time to time. And if you look at the opposite and say your mode of action is one in which you're lazy and apathetic about achieving your goals, or don't put in the effort to even figure out what your proper goals should be, then you are failing, even if you encounter riches, fame, and all the other external markers of success. In my case, before the financial crisis, I had achieved all of the external markers, right? The nice office, the multi-million-dollar condo, all the Lego sets I could buy. But I was actually failing because I was finding no meaning and purpose in what I was doing. And after the crisis, my client revenues started to tank somewhat, and I'm sure it seemed to some of my fellow partners that I was starting to fail in some sense. But from my perspective, and this was because of my personal intellectual journey that the crisis spurred, I ultimately found a path to meaning and purpose in my work. And it was only then that, in retrospect, even though I lost that condo, that I believe I began succeeding. Fortunately, I still have the Lego sets. So, in conclusion, if you take nothing else away today, try to remember that success is more of a verb than a noun. It's an action towards meaningful goals, not a static state of being. And the same goes for happiness. If you seek simply to be successful or happy, as if these were magical states of being to attain, then your efforts will often reduce to simply trying to avoid pain and failure, which really is impossible. You're going to experience those things anyway. I've come to believe that a wiser goal is to try to find something to do, which brings such clear meaning and purpose that it renders the unavoidable pain and failures of life irrelevant. And that's really the best advice I can give you. So with that, I want to congratulate you again. Enjoy the day, celebrate, and don't forget to eat your vegetables. Thank you very much.
Hello, I am Sierra Henry from Hugo, and it is my great honor to introduce a very special person, Dr. Christopher Schrock, Dean of Students. Dr. Christopher Schrock is one of our own. He is a 2000 graduate of the Oklahoma School of Science and Mathematics. He graduated the University of Tulsa cum laude with the Bachelor's of Science in Electrical Engineering and completed TU's honors program on the history of Western thought. Dr. Schrock went on to earn his master's degree with a concentration in historical theology from the Harding School of Theology in Memphis, Tennessee, and his PhD in philosophy from Baylor University in 2013. Dr. Schrock has taught math, physics, and humanities at OSSM, and he has worked with this Residence Life program since joining the faculty in 2010. He has been our Dean of Students since 2013. Dr. Schrock specializes in 18th century Scottish philosophy and is the author of Thomas Reid and the Problems of Secondary Qualities, to be released later this year. He reads Biblical Greek and enjoys doing his own auto repair. He is married to Dr. Daniela Schrock, and they have 3 beautiful children, Elle, Todd, Reese, plus another on the way. We welcome Dr. Christopher Schrock to announce the graduates of the class of 2017.
Students chosen to attend OSSM have achieved outstanding academic records in their hometown high schools. The faculty and Board of Trustees of OSSM are committed to enhancing previous knowledge as well as preparing students for future studies. OSSM students experience a well-defined curriculum that encourages discipline and honesty. Paramount to OSSM students is the receipt of educational nourishing through both academic and residential components. That is great challenge coupled with great support. Now, while in residence at OSSM, all graduates successfully complete 1 unit of biology, 1 unit of chemistry, 1 1/2 units of physics, including 1 unit of calculus-based physics, a minimum of 2 units of mathematics, inclusive of 2 semesters of calculus, 1/2 unit of computer science, 1 unit of electives, 2 units of history, 2 units of literature, 2 units of a foreign language, 1 unit of fine arts, and 2 units of physical education. They also complete at least 60 hours of community service and 60 hours of school service. Dr. Wong, Mr. Little, and other members of the Board of Trustees, all these before us have met OSSM's basic requirements, and most have far exceeded them. So on behalf of Vice President for Academic Services, Dr. Chiffon Liu, I hereby certify them to receive their diplomas. Shreya Naguri, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Santosh Naguri, Oklahoma City. Yingjia Gao, daughter of Dr. Tien Ming Gao and Mrs. Wei Jing Kai, Stillwater. Kiera Jefferson, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Keith Jefferson, Oklahoma City. Grant Westfall, son of Mr. Scott Westfall and Miss Angel Bradford, Kingfisher. Jacob Binge, son of Mr. and Mrs. Jason Binge, Enid. Matt Blaylock, son of Miss Karen Blaylock, Hartshorn. Logan Biggins, son of Mr. Sean Biggins and Ms. Tammy Clements, Binger. Jessica Yin, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Gary Yin, Stillwater. Abel Zachariah, son of Mr. and Mrs. Kurian Zachariah, Oklahoma City. Jeremiah Yohanan, son of Mr. and Mrs. Thomas Yohanan, Yukon. Shane Skinner, son of Mrs. Shirley Skinner, Yukon. Jae Young On, son of Mrs. In Young Kim, Oklahoma City. Bing Chen, son of Dr. Ching Chen and Dr. Tao Ding, Stillwater. Alex Zhang, son of Dr. Glenn Zhang and Mrs. Yan Song, Stillwater. Jacqueline O, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Dong O, Edmond. Amanda Pan, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Zach Pan, Edmond. Adriana Buller, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. John Buller, Oklahoma City. Sierra Henry, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Leland Henry, Hugo. Ritvik Ganguly, son of Mr. and Mrs. Dipanjan Ganguly, Tulsa. Daniel Yao, son of Mr. Long Biao Yao and Mrs. Lirong Liu, Edmond. Sarath Sunkar, son of Dr. Ramanjulu Sunkar and Mrs. Kanchana Gudu, Stillwater. William McDonald, son of Mr. Eric McDonald and Dr. Julie Cook, Stillwater. Opiyemi Odejimi, daughter of Dr. and Mrs. Sheena Odejimi, Tulsa. Sneha Patel, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Mehul Patel, Boise City. Rosa San Roman, daughter of Ms. Iris San Roman, Oklahoma City. Kratana Kumar, daughter of Drs. daughter of Drs. B. Ashwini and Nandini Kumar, Oklahoma City. Chloe Poindexter, daughter of Mr. Rhett Poindexter and Miss Tara Watson, Oklahoma City. Mansi Gatani, daughter of Dr. and Mrs. Sanjay Gatani, Broken Arrow. Rachel Abraham, daughter of Drs. K.J. and Susan Abraham, Stillwater. Davina Ushamabwe, daughter of Dr. and Mrs. Joseph Ushamabwe, Tulsa. Akantra Chandrasekhar, daughter of Mr. Chandrasekhar Pumal and Mrs. Deepa Peta, Edmond. Anne Zachariah, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Kurian Zachariah, Oklahoma City. Annette Zachariah, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Kurian Zachariah, Oklahoma City. Michael Lee, son of Mr. and Mrs. Eugene Lee, Edmond. Haotian Chin, son of Mr. Tao Chin and Mrs. Weia Zhao, Edmond. Joshua Wester, son of Mr. and Mrs. J. Mike Wester, Shawnee. Grace Liu, daughter of Doctors Wei Shin Liu and Yumei Yao, Oklahoma City. Angela Zhu, daughter of Mr. Zin Zhu and Mrs. Liping Ma, Norman. Thomas Palmer, son of Mr. and Mrs. Timothy Palmer, Claremore. Clayton McFarland, son of Miss Sylvia McFarland, Bartlesville. Misha Peskoviak, daughter of Dr. and Mrs. Yaroslav Peskoviak, Kasha. Annie Dong, daughter of Dr. Yi Fei Dong and Mrs. Luping Wang, Norman. Madeline Williams, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Gerald Williams, Muskogee. Jessica Slavic, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Chris Slavic, Midwest City. Berkeley Knowles, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. David Knowles, Midwest City. Desislava Stefanova, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Stefan Stefanoff, Midwest City. Joel Bullock, son of Mr. Scott Bullock and Mrs. Michael Howell, Newcastle. Zachary Arani, son of Mr. and Mrs. Bob Arani, Oklahoma City. Santos Espinosa, son of Mr. and Mrs. Ozzie Espinosa, Bethany. Daniel Chong, son of Dr. Joel Chong and Dr. Teresa Amigo, Muskogee. Matthew Byer, son of Mr. and Mrs. John Byer, Edmond. Jacob Crampton, son of Mr. and Mrs. Derek Crampton, Edmond. Bertram Su, son of Dr. Ming Shan Su and Mrs. An Chin Lai, Durant. Hunter Soliday, son of Mr. David Soliday and Mrs. Alana Rawls, McAllister. Justin Wilford, son of Mr. Mark Wilford and Miss Lori Wilford, Lawton. Christopher Chapman, son of Mr. Christopher Chapman and Mrs. Debbie McCreary, Norman. James Kennedy, son of Mr. and Mrs. Douglas Kennedy, Norman. Kenneth Brown, son of Miss Amber Edie Duncan. Rachel Engelman, daughter of Doctors Paul and Tammy Engelman, Lawton. Michael Anoki, son of Mr. and Mrs. Hillary Anoki, Tulsa. John Nguyen, son of Mr. Fong Nguyen and Mrs. Cindy Bowie, Moore. Catherine Liebel, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. David Liebel, Hera. Josephine Hriescu, daughter of Mr. and Dr. Joseph Hriescu, Duncan. Will the OSSM Class of 2017 please stand? Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Oklahoma School of Science and Mathematics graduating class of 2017. Graduates, you may move your tassels.
Okay, you may be seated. All right, before I make my remarks, we have some important business to take care of. Parents and guardians, please stand. Parents and guardians, if you're a parent or guardian here, and graduates, please join me in showing your appreciation to your parents and to your guardians for their support of you during these 2 years. And will the faculty that has taught you for these 2 years, please stand. And please join me in thanking the faculty. That's the reason you came to the school. Very good. I'm going to keep my remarks mercifully short because this gown is getting awfully heavy and the medallion here is pretty heavy. I think in one graduation I lost 5 pounds during the ceremony. And I think many of the students will have some difficulty staying awake because I stayed in the dorms in a sleeping bag last night. And I think the last round I made at 3:15 a.m., there were still some students awake in the common area. So this is my 5th graduating class. My predecessor used to share interesting facts about the class. So I'm going to follow her precedent. So we are graduating 64 students, 31 young women and 33 young men, representing 19 counties and 39 high schools. 4 are American Indians, 4 African Americans, 29 Asian Americans, and 2 Hispanics. So we have quite a diverse class. And my message today, to use a simple one, to be resilient and flexible, to remember to give back. So your world is one of rapid change and uncertainty, and how you cope and adjust will determine how well you navigate your journey through life. So OSSM itself is experiencing great change and challenge, and we're finding ways to adapt. So we at OSSM have received steady funding for nearly 20 years, from 1989 through 2009. But from 2009, our funding was cut quite sharply, about a quarter, and we've had to lay off over these past years our staffing, our faculty and staff, by nearly a third. So we are now forced to find new entrepreneurial ways of bringing in new revenue and staying afloat. So the challenge for us is to find ways of maintaining our hallowed traditions while making changes to adapt with the changing times. So this graduation is one such example. We traditionally have held our graduation on the steps of the state capitol, but this year construction of the capitol has forced us to find a new venue. But we still want to preserve that wonderful tradition of the students with the backdrop of the Capitol throwing up their caps in a very iconic photo that we're going to replicate today. So graduates, please stay behind after the ceremony. We have a bus to take you to the Capitol so we can take that wonderful group picture there. You are all enormously talented and motivated individuals, and I have no doubt that you're going to achieve success in whatever endeavor you pursue. You may not become as accomplished as our commencement speaker, Dr. Edward Smith, but I ask you to answer her exhortation to look for ways to serve, to look for ways of giving back. I know that you undoubtedly will achieve success in whatever endeavor you pursue. And remember that when you achieve that success, remember to give back to those who so fervently and so earnestly invested in you, to your school, to your local community, to the state of Oklahoma, and to your country. And with this simple message, I bid you students, the class of 2017 of the Oklahoma School of Science and Mathematics, Godspeed. Thank you.